Da-da-da-da-da. The Altbays Show is live on YouTube at 7 p.m. And this is our last Friday show because from next week we start live streaming every Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah, boy.
I know, right? We've been doing 3 shows since we started in February 2022. It's been a cool journey. We've done 154 shows so far. Tonight is 155. We're very happy with the amount of amazing people that we brought here to have conversations. It's very interesting and inspiring to listen to different perspectives in life and different points of view. So I highly recommend you to talk to people and especially to listen to them. Practice active listening and it might change your life. I'm not saying that it changed mine, but it might change yours. If you are on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel. It did change my life. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. We are obviously a podcast, so you will find us on all the main audio platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, very popular one. So make sure to check us out there, and you can also subscribe to our platforms on those audio things. We are on TikTok, we are on Facebook, and we're on Instagram, and we post clips, snippets of these interesting, beautiful shows. And if you like what you see, you can go and listen to the whole thing. Isn't it cool? We have also recently released a new local magazine. Look at this, Coral Mind magazine. It's a cool collaborative project. So we got different people from the Coromando writing, expressing their opinions and sharing their thoughts. We praise for beautiful covers and artwork. So if you are an artist, get in touch with us. If you are someone who is into doing illustrations, or if you would like to write for the magazine, we would love to have a chat with you. Okay, we got schools coming on board, which is pretty cool. I'm not going to say much about it. Obviously, the Mercury Bay Area School is involved because I work there and we know a lot of people from there. But we started connecting with other places, and the coolest thing is some schools contacted us, which means a lot. So watch this space. It's a monthly magazine, and we're very happy with what's happening in this beautiful town called Whitianga. On my left, did you like that intro?
That was absolute. I've never heard a better intro in my entire life.
It's our special last Friday intro.
Yeah, well deserved.
Thank you very much. How are you, Petra Campbell?
I am pretty good. Feeling all right. Feeling devoid of work, but other than that.
Hey, everybody's taking the punches, because of the crazy weather and the road closures. So not many shifts for you lately?
No. I've had every single shift. I usually have 6 shifts a week. I now have 2. One of them's been shortened to like 3.5 hours. So it's pretty radical. So that plan to put some money together to travel is still on, but maybe a little bit slower than what you expected? Yeah, a little bit, but it's not terrible. I mean, it's 1 week thus far. It's just the last 2 weeks of work that I was going to be doing before I go, so we'll see. Are you excited about starting to explore the country first? Is that right? And then the world? Yeah, it's very exciting. Very scary.
Very scary?
Yeah.
Are you worrying too much about the amount of things that you're going to take with you and all that stuff, or not really?
My problem is, am I going to take enough? Because I am sometimes a little bit too minimalist in the fact that I forget the essentials.
Right.
I'll be like, I really need this little, like I've got a mushroom, dude holding a mushroom coming out of the aircon in my car, but I'm not sure if I have a chopping board. So.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you will prioritize some stuff that maybe are not priority. That's cool though. Can you send us a picture or bring the mushroom dudes next time?
Yeah, I think so. That's a good idea. I might have to take a photo.
Great. Did you enjoy the show on Monday with Henry, Lebedev, and Kate?
How could you not? They're such cool people. Yeah. And we've got another cool person on tonight, so very exciting.
Quite informative as well, eh? They brought some gems.
Yes. Yeah, very informative, very wise. Yeah.
And I really didn't know like how old they were, because they looked like super healthy, but they sounded like very old people,
and
right?
sound like 70-year-olds, but look like late 20s.
Yeah. So check out that show. It was pretty cool. And on that was on Monday, show 153, and then we had a cool photojournalist on Wednesday, and our friends Brando Yelovich, the wild boy, came to co-host that one.
Yeah.
And that was pretty special too. That was pretty cool. He's doing some conservation work, so he takes pictures from places that are suffering with deforestation and all that stuff. And he was in the bushfires in Australia, so he had some cool stories to share.
That's impressive. Very impressive.
And tonight, very special show, our last Friday, we have Beth Claire here with us. Hello, Beth.
Hey, how are you guys?
Going good. How are you?
Good.
Are you feeling good here in our studio, enjoying the place, the vibe?
Yeah, it's such a vibe, but it is a bit nervous. It's almost like PTSD coming back onto something because I was on TV. So now it's like, oh, cameras again. Oh, God. What do I have to do? What do I have to make?
Well, we're not going to put too much pressure on you. From what I saw from the Project Runway New Zealand, it looked like in some moments you guys were really stressed out. So I think we'll be way easier to deal with.
Yeah, this seems a bit more chill.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So just before we dive deep, I just want to say thank you to our dear friends from Slice Baby for providing amazing kai here for us. It's been a cool journey with these guys, always supporting us. Sourdough based pizza. It's a beautiful family that run the business. So if you are coming to the Coromandel, which you should, I know that the roads are a bit crazy and that will be the right time to come to the Coromandel, make sure to check them out and support small local businesses. These guys make amazing pizza. Tasty, eh, Petra?
Very, very tasty.
Happy days, Beth?
Yeah, for sure.
Good
I love
food.
those guys.
Awesome. So make sure to check them out. We're going to have them on the screen. Slice Baby NZ. Okay. Now, getting back to this. So, Beth, you studied to be a fashion designer and you worked in the area for a few years, right?
Yeah. So my start really came in high school. I went to Epsom Girls Grammar. And one of my favourite subjects was obviously sewing. And my grandmother was a sewer as well. She actually had a small shop in Southmore in Auckland when she was very young, selling things, making clothes and stuff. So I guess it was kind of in my DNA. And when I had my son Oscar 8 years ago, I couldn't find anything that I liked to dress him in, like accessories and things like that. Obviously looking at me, you can tell I'm a little bit left of centre. So I was trying to find things that weren't just circus animals or like beach scenes and stuff like that. So I thought, heck, I'll just make it myself. Like, I've got a sewing machine, why not? And so I just drafted up my own little pattern for a baby bib, bought some cool fabric from Spotlight, some zombies fabric and blood splatter fabric, things like that. Started making them, and then my friends saw them and they were like, well, can I have some of that stuff for my kid too? I was like, of course. And so everything kind of just built from there. And I did that on my own for, I think, 5 years. I kind of graduated into doing some clothing for kids. And as Oscar grew, my interest grew, and I was more interested in making human-sized clothing. So I thought, well, I don't actually know how to do that, so I better go and learn how to do it. So I went to SoTech in Auckland. Went there for a year and did a pattern making course, and so that's how you learn how to actually make the patterns that you put on the fabric to cut it out and make an item. Was
it like a challenging course from the beginning, or because you were familiar with the process before and you just kind of like went with it?
Well, yeah, it was kind of familiar because I'd always been using textiles and fabric and stuff, but it was the mathematics of actually making a pattern. And the scale, and you're using rulers and ruling lines and working out equations, and especially for things like circle skirts, you've actually got to use a maths equation with pi to figure out how big to make the waist, and so you can actually fit in the thing.
Yeah, that's not very cool.
Yeah, but I mean, once you get it, it sticks in your head. So, yeah.
So there's this thing with like you have specific people like who will measure you and do like the problem. So like especially for TV and all that stuff, right? Those guys are all like
that's tailoring. So
that's tailoring.
Yeah, so you'll get people who work specifically off measurements, which is a lot of custom stuff, and then the things that you buy in the shop are made from a basic standard pattern. the standards are usually different between countries and also between clothing brands. If you've ever bought a size 12 from here and a size 12 from here, and they're completely different. So there's a lot of that. But that what you're talking about is tailoring.
Was it something that is it something that you can choose as a path from what you studied, or like it takes a whole different realm of studying and knowledge to become a tailor?
No, well, tailoring, like old school tailoring, you definitely need to go and learn from someone. I did a small internship in Auckland after I finished at SOTEC with a guy called Stephen Blaise, and he had a CMT factory, which is cut, measure and trim, and that's where designers send their almost like a blueprint to them, then a pattern is made, everything's put into production, put all the trims on, and then send it off back to the designer. And the guy that he learnt off was James Loft, and he's a traditional tailor. And you can go to tailoring school overseas, like in Italy and things like that. Big bucks, you'd have to pay big bucks to go and do it. But yeah, you can specifically go and learn to be a tailor. But I think a lot of fashion design is passion as well.
Ooh, that's so interesting. I didn't even know that.
Do you go through some adventures, Petra, with your clothing? Like, do you chop it up and then you put things together?
I've cut myself a crop top once and it failed miserably, and I'm never doing it again. And that was my fashion adventure. Or one time though, my dad accidentally put one of the things in the washing, because I work a lot during the day. He does all the washing, and so it comes out and it's totally shrunk. And so I cut off the sleeves so that it would fit me still, and that's a pretty cool top. So
nice.
Great. I love this thing with like recycling and going for the vintage shops and going to op shops. I have these good friends from Auckland, and like he always dress up nicely, but you can tell that he did something with the clothing, you know, like, and that's when the art comes, right? So like because I think that's what most people struggle, like when you go to an op shop, you find cool stuff, but they don't fit you.
Yep.
And you're frustrated. But like, if you know, I guess some basic.
Yeah, but like for me, that was me as a child, cutting things up and turning them into something else. I think it used to drive my mother crazy, because she'd buy me clothes and I'd think, well, I can probably make that better, and absolutely hack it and then staple it back together and make it something else. That's kind of, you know, I think my parents could tell I was going to be a fashion designer with that kind of carnage that was going on. But yeah, it's always really cool to find something old and turn it new, especially with the amount of waste that goes on in the fashion industry. It's the biggest polluter. It's ridiculous. If you look at the stats on fashion design and the waste from fast fashion, it's out the gate. You don't want to read it. It's that bad.
I think there's a documentary on that. There must be a field, and there's something with Monsanto as well, because they kind of take over as a monopoly on some seeds to grow. I don't know what kind of thing that goes in there.
Well, there's a big one around denim. Denim is like also very bad, like the runoff from the dye as well, going into the ecosystems. That's a really touchy subject. I have a friend, Misty Ratama. She is a Māori designer, and she takes a lot of denim from op shops and a lot of donated denim, and she completely transforms them into these most amazing jackets. Her label is The People, and honestly, it's out the gate. It's a jacket and it's completely cohesive. It looks amazing. And then she prints the Māori flag on the back as well. Definitely someone to check out.
We should bring her and you come here to co-host, to chat with. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be cool. So what should we be checking? Like, I see that's the cool thing about chatting. Like, you never know where it's going to go. What are cool things to check when buying clothing? Like, what would you recommend? Like, when it comes to an ethical product, or like, of course, we all love the secondhand shops, but like every now and then you're gonna go and buy something new. And some people, that's all they do. You know, like it's their fun time of the week. You know, they weekly, if not daily, they're buying something new. Are there tips they would give to people, like to pay more attention and try to make it a bit more sustainable?
Well, always shop for your basics. Building around basics is really good. If you have like your staple white t-shirt that you can wear with everything, that's always really good. There's also a list that is published every year of brands and designers who what do you call it? They hit all the checklists of these things, like the humanitarian aspect of making things, because obviously you've got things that go on in other countries like India and stuff. There was that huge collapse where they all were collapsed inside this building because there was no legislation and things in that country around that type of work. So I can't remember the actual name of it, but there is a list, and if you make the list, then you're all good to buy from there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we obviously know about like our fast fashion things, like probably not the best to be buying from like Shine and stuff like that.
Oh god.
And then, but that's the thing. Like that's the classic. Like that's probably the biggest problem in the world. Like it's people not getting paid properly and having to buy cheap stuff. You know, like the fashion struggles with the same issues that the food industry makes us all struggle. You know, like you have fast foods and crappy foods closer to poor areas on purpose, clearly, you know, like because it's affordable and it's something that it will fill up your belly. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for you. So clothing not necessarily will make you sick, but it will make a lot of other people sick with the production styles, right? And what I hear often when it comes to like buying from those like very cheap Alibaba, I don't know, like specific websites, but like, oh, but we're helping those people. What would they do if they didn't have that opportunity? And you're like, if you don't break this cycle, Petra, enlighten us. Let me talk.
There's no opportunity for them. They could have work standards. They could pay them well. And they lure them in by saying that we will pay you well, and then into slavery they go, getting paid like a $1 every 2 days or something ridiculous.
Yeah, some of those documentaries that I've seen out the gate, you've got men in India working on machines, and then to sleep, they sleep underneath of their sewing machines. Like, that's ridiculous. They don't even go home. They just stay there, work, sleep, work. It's disgusting.
We have it good, our life, isn't it? We're actually
living in a place like this. We are so lucky.
Okay, so from there we go to let's go back a little bit more to your story, and it's cool because we can go to so many places. So how did the thing with going to the show, being part of the Project Runway, became a thing? Like how did it start?
Well, I was at SoTech, and I kept getting tagged in this thing, and it was Warner Brothers were looking for people to go on the first season of Project Runway New Zealand.
What is the Project Runway for the people who don't know what it is?
Well, it's like 1 minute you're in and the next you're out. Heidi Klum made it famous in America. It's been around for many, many, many years. She doesn't do it anymore with Tom Gunn, I think his name was. I think the franchise is still going in America, but it's definitely not with Heidi. But yeah, basically it's a brawl to the death to make the best fashion garment possible. Now you have a heap of contestants. We all make stuff. We get kicked out because our stuff is terrible, or we win because our stuff is great. So, which is really weird because it's all subjective too. It's just like art. Like, how would you win an art show? You know, like.
Be better.
Ooh. Okay, so people started tagging you, and then you were like, okay, let's consider this.
I honestly was just like, whatever, fake it till you make it. I live by that mantra a lot. And I said they wanted a 30-second video, so I did one of those. I'd literally just woken up, looked terrible. I was like, whatever, I'll just do it. And then they asked me for a Skype interview, and so I was like, all right, well, I'll do that. And then they asked me for baby photos, and I was like, okay. And they asked me to come in, and I was like, sure. What's happening? What is going on? And I remember there was another girl at SoTech as well who had applied for it. Amy, she was a friend of mine, but obviously when you got past a certain point, you had to sign an NDA. Like a pre-NDA, because we had an NDA that we had to sign when we got our contract, but before that we had to get an NDA before when I had my interview at Warner Brothers, they made me sign something, and so I couldn't talk to anybody about it then. And then I think I went in a second time and I met with a man called Andreas, and he was one of the senior fashion lecturers at AUT, I think it was. And he looked at some of my stuff because I had to bring in examples of my work. And he was like, what would you change about it? And I was like, I bet everybody said, I'll change this, I'll change that. And I thought, bugger it. I wouldn't change anything. I think it's great, you know. And he was like, oh, all right then. Like, that's different. Nobody else has said that. And I was like, that's what I do. I'm just different.
Yeah, just special.
So, yeah. And then they gave me a phone call and when I was actually at school doing something. And they were like, oh, we'd like to invite you onto the show. Congratulations. And I was just like, oh my God, like jumping up and down, like, what is this even real? Like, I'm going on TV, like, what have I got myself into? So, yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
And then it happened. How was it a thing that, like, you would go to a place or, like, you would have your normal life and then you would go to a place one day, or, like, you were confined in a place and then you would have, like, how was the dynamics of the...
So they pretty much told you to pack for 6.5 weeks. And they were like, all right, we're going to come pick you up. And so a car came and picked me up. And I borrowed a lot of outfits from my friends. Because the other thing as well is a lot of the time when you go on these TV shows, you kind of have to pick a character almost. And kind
Did they tell you that, or you had in mind that you had to be?
I was like slightly guided towards that and made aware of that fact by them. And so I was like, right, well, what do I know best? And I was heavily involved in the pin-up scene in New Zealand at that point in time. So I thought, right, I'll just swing it fully this way and just wear that kind of stuff all the time, and that'll be my character. So I'd borrowed a lot of stuff from my friends who were also in the scene, and we were taken to the hotel that's in Victoria Park there, all introduced to each other and said, all right, we're filming now. And I was like, all right, well, okay, sweet. Filmed us walking in, like did this angle, and that was my first taste because they said, all right, walk in and get in the lift, but don't go up the lift. And we're like, sweet. And then the lift opens back up again. They're like, right, well, you need to do the same thing in the same formation, but we're going to have your camera over here this time. I was like, sweet. And so we did that.
Whoa.
And then, yeah, that's pretty much, that was a lot of it, is you do this, they film this bit, and they're like, right, just make sure you remember where you were, and we'll go back and we'll just do that again from a different angle. Or like, can you say that again? But can you say it like this?
Ooh.
Yeah, lots of that. But I think we had actually met all the other contestants a couple of days before that because we had to do all our media photos and stuff. Like they tell you to bring 3 different outfits and they say they'll feed you, and they go through that, and that was really fun. I was with Stephen Tilley, one of the photographers in Auckland, and he was taking photos of me and I was doing all my pin-up poses and stuff. And he's like, you've done this before, haven't you? And I was like, I certainly have. Everyone's like smiling like normal, and I'm just like, yeah, work.
How is the pin-up movement that you were involved? Like, what's the vibe? What are the events? Like, how people get to know each other, and where are the cool places to go? Like when you are in that scene.
Well, I haven't really been to anything in a while because I've been living here, so I've kind of fallen out of all of that stuff.
But even at that time?
But the main one that is focused around the pin-up scene in New Zealand is, there used to be the Very Vintage Day Out, and there is also the Kumu Car Show, which is a big one. There are actually a lot of other events around New Zealand, like there's Americana and there's some in the South Island. And then you've obviously got Beach Hop, which is a huge staple of the North Island. The pin-up community has always been super welcoming. Everybody's really nice. It's like very body positive as well, which is really cool. I have never really encountered any discrimination. Everybody was always like fully on your team. It didn't matter how old you were or how young you were. And it was always really fun being around that kind of stuff. It was like vintage vibes, but not vintage values, you know? So it was,
That is very cool. Sounds like a sort of community that everyone wants to be in.
It was good, yeah. And like I just felt like I fit in really well there. I mean, had no idea how to do my hair most of the time, but luckily I had friends that could do that for me. So
the thing that you mentioned, body positive, which is cool. Like, so when it comes to the TV aspect, like, did you feel like they were also worried about those things, like the models that were coming for you guys, and like the kind of clothing that you were working on? Could you feel like there was some sort of inclusion going on there?
No, absolutely not. I got told off for saying on camera that I wish that there was plus size models.
Wow.
Yeah,
Seriously?
I was given the largest model, who was my friend Tia, who is not the largest model by any stretch of the imagination, but because she was like a solid size 10, she was apparently the biggest model.
Size 10.
Yeah, which was, not okay in my books. But yeah, a couple of times I had asked on camera why there are no plus size models, especially in the one-on-one interviews, because a couple of times a day they pull you away for those like one-on-one little things. And I'd said that, and they're kind of just like, let's not go down that path. And I was like, okay, sweet as, I guess we're not really there yet with the New Zealand version of the show. I don't know if they're there with the American version of the show, but...
How long ago was that? When were you in the show?
So I think we filmed, I think it's 4 years ago now.
Do you feel like it's changing? Like... And the show, because the show is still on, right? Or not the New Zealand version anymore?
No, they only did one season in New Zealand.
Right. Do you feel like New Zealand has a good, like, it's doing well when it comes to that?
Absolutely. There's a lot of fashion designers in New Zealand, and they're completely unafraid to design for all shapes of bodies. There's even stores in Manukau now in Auckland, which are specifically catered to larger sized men, which is
I love that.
incredibly smart, because you're going to make money, and then everyone feels included, and even big boys can look good too. Like, you go, big king, like, yes, But yeah, I also feel like the plus size designers just have it right. Like, they can just see it from a different perspective, and like they know what people want.
Yeah, and like the fact that most of the time clothes are made for small people, and like the designs aren't made to fit a bigger body. That annoys me the most. Like, if someone makes some clothes that like look great on a really small person, but they don't look good on a bigger person at all.
Yeah.
They're just not thinking about the different proportions of other people.
Yeah, because I mean, you can make the same garment for a larger sized person, but you have to design it differently. There's a whole different set of like rules and things when you're designing for a larger sized body. One of my friends, Amy, she is very body positive, and all of her stuff is designed around plus size women. She doesn't even make stuff for smaller women, and the stuff that she makes is absolutely incredible. And she does a lot of stuff for one of New Zealand's best stylists, Sammy Salsa. She's done stuff for Christmas in the Park. Like, it's just crazy. Like, the stuff that she makes is absolutely beautiful, and it's all for bigger women, and also for a lot of the LGBTQ community as well. So,
are there other? Oh, great that you mentioned that straight away, because it feels like there's a lot of people from the LGBTQ plus community running the show, right? So, like, why would you not support the cause and put it at the forefront, right? But like, does it come to times that it's better if you don't say anything? That like, if you just keep it cool and you don't.
But like, if I don't say anything, I'm part of the problem.
No, but I mean, that's what I mean. Like, do you feel like sometimes people prefer not to? Like, they stop themselves from being who they are just because it's better for the industry and for whatever?
Absolutely. Everybody wants to get ahead, and everyone wants to be the best. So if you can...
Did you see the guy, the All Black player who said that, like... He
the
said
first All Black to come out, yeah.
That's fresh, and that's so cool, isn't it?
Heck yeah.
I was surprised that it was the first one. Actually, I was like, "What? The first guy? This should be."
It's so saturated with just like homophobia and stuff. There was like rumors of a guy a few years back, and it's just like he got slandered. I don't even know who it was. I just heard a story one time. It was like, and now that this guy's come out, there's still people who are like, "No, they shouldn't be announcing that. That's some private information that I don't want to hear. Keep it out. Keep it in the bedroom.
Keep your straight relationships in the bedroom too, then."
Yeah, exactly.
And it's frustrating, isn't it? Because like, kids dream to be an All Black, and then whatever happens in their lives, that they just want to say, they just want to open up about who they are, what they feel like, if they're homosexual, or if they like whatever they like, and then they will stop themselves to be in the team, to be supporting the nation, helping the nation, because it's a big passion for New Zealanders, but doing so much damage for themselves.
Yeah, It's hard. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to get around something like that. Yeah.
Frustrating, isn't it?
Very.
People should just be able to live their life. Like, it's not affecting anybody else.
No.
So,
are there other? Now I'm thinking about like the issues that are around big industries, and when it comes to fashion, I also think about animal cruelty, because there's a lot of fur, there's a lot of those things going on. Did you see recently like this people who made like heads of animals? Did you see that?
yeah.
I wasn't sure how to feel about that because I was like, that is such beautiful artistry, but also like it's weird.
I was
It's
just
so
like
strange.
absolutely slay. Like,
Yeah.
You didn't like it?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, you loved it. Like, sorry.
Absolutely, because that's one of my favorite designers, and the people focus so much on those 3 outfits. And
What's her name?
it's really hard to pronounce, but it's like Schiaparelli, but don't quote me on the
it's
pronunciation
fine.
of that
No.
one. But she's amazing. She actually was one of the first people to do. She did the hands on the top as like the holding the boobs one, and then all of
I
her,
love that.
yeah, like the the gloves on the hat, which is like very, very old school and amazing. Like the stuff that is coming out of Schiaparelli now is really, really amazing. But like people focused on those 3 outfits so much, completely detracted from the rest of the collection, and the rest of the collection is absolutely amazing. It's stunning. But you need to appreciate the artistry and the amount of time that it would have taken to make those
They
3
were
heads.
so realistic. That's what I loved about them. Like, how do you make it? Was entirely not out of animal products at all. Like the whole thing was done.
Are you sure? I think I
I'm
saw
pretty
some
sure.
criticism on
They were
wool, like
Wool?
that they used, and I think so. Petra, we would have to check that. But I saw some people from like vegan communities saying, they could have used all the products. Maybe they did. Maybe it was just like a.
I thought it was all faux fur and synthetics.
Goddamn vegans.
Yeah.
No, and not even the vegans, but like I think, and then I would have to go and see what was her purpose, because maybe there was nothing to do with animal cruelty. Like maybe she was just
Like a show of
doing
power
their
is
thing.
what it feels
Yeah,
like.
you know, like and then it's fine.
The whole story between those 3 garments was based on a story. I think it was a biblical story.
Ooh.
It's got a fancy name that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was actually based around that story. And each of those heads represents like a quality, like stamina and, you know, fierceness or whatever. So it was actually a whole story around that biblical story for those 3 heads.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I understand when people go, it's promoting animal cruelty and stuff, but who's going to go out and murder
Yeah.
a wolf and stick it on them, you know? Can you even do that these days?
I mean, if you really wanted to, people can still like kill giraffes and things. So
It's
got a
true.
long way to go.
Yeah, and I could see both sides of the story. People getting very annoyed, and people saying, yeah, it's bringing awareness to a cause, because like, what's the problem? Like you wear the rest of the body of the animal, and as soon as someone puts the face of the animal, now you have a problem with it, you know, like. So, and that's the beautiful thing about an artistic piece like that one, right? You allow people to have their own, you know, take on it. Of course you want to hear from the artist, because that makes sense, but like you still allow people to have their own take on
'Cause,
things.
yeah, all the fashion channels posted about it. There's an Instagram called Diet Prada, and they're like the goss on all the big fashion stuff. And if they post something and it's like they say no, that's like a no, don't do that. But they posted about it and it was really positive. So I was like, hey, sweet, we're fine. If Diet Prada says it's okay, then it's totally okay.
That's just the way. Them's just the way.
It's the gospel. It's the fashion gospel on Instagram.
Prada, like the
Yeah, it's called Diet Prada.
Diet Prada.
Yeah.
Is it do you feel like is it the biggest name in the world, like for fashion and clothes? Is it
For
Prada?
fashion gossip?
Yeah.
Yeah. For fashion gossip, that's where you go.
Wow.
What about when it comes to brands? Would you name like, I don't know, 3 or 4 like big names? Because we always hear like Gucci and all this stuff. Like, are those ones the biggest one?
If someone who is not in the industry can name 3 big fashion designers, then that's obviously the biggest fashion designers. Because if you're out of the loop and those are the first ones that come to your head, obviously they're doing something right. If you know about them and you're not in the industry.
And I feel like even when you come across a fake version of those products, it's still good for the brand.
Well,
you know, not great, but I mean, like, you're still promoting the name, because I find it quite weird people wearing a brand, like, when it's just the name. Like, I might even have a t-shirt, you know, like, I have to be careful with what I'm saying, but like, it just feels a bit weird. Like, you clearly just promoting the name. So that's how I see it. If it's a fake one, well, but you still putting the word out there.
For massive conglomerates like that, it's probably fine. But for small businesses or just tiny little designers, totally not okay. There's been so many small artists who have been completely ripped off by AliExpress and Shein and all those like tacky little fast fashion brands, and they make these things and they're making it from a picture. So when you get it, it's absolute crap. So don't even bother. Like, just buy the real thing. Like, there's even friends of mine. My friend Bridget in Hamilton, she's had her stuff ripped off by those people. And then you've got places that are larger that will rip off the smaller brands. Like, there was a fashion designer who did a runway a number of years ago, and they literally exactly ripped off a design from a floor mat that a brand called Sourpuss had made and stuck it on their dress.
Wow.
And like, how does a small brand take on a huge brand like that?
You can't.
Yeah. So the only real power they have is social media, where they can post and share and ask multiple people to send them messages and get it taken down or get it changed or whatever.
So glad we have that power now. You know, I feel like being a fashion designer back in the day, I wonder what that would have looked like, to not have any social media and have to promote for yourself while people are taking all your ideas.
Everything would have probably been a lot more exclusive, because you're not just like leaking or posting or... You know, you'd have actual proper spies going into fashion houses and
that sounds kind of
sneaking
fun.
around.
Fashion spy. Question for both of you: how do you feel about like these super expensive items? You know, like a pair of shoes that cost like $20,000 because it has some, I don't know, Swarovski or whatever, and sometimes not really. Like, I saw an article the other day of these, I don't know if it was shoes or jeans, that like, they look horrible, like they look like they have been, you know, like punk rock, like, and that's what makes them extremely expensive. Like, what's your take on that?
You go.
My take?
You go.
My take, I love, there's like a part of me that's like, yeah, okay, get it. Make your money. That is like such a smart thing, to be able to put out something and just be like, this is $20,000 because it's shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, you're living life, you're killing the game, you're making a 20-cent garment, you're making a terrible looking shoe, and you're selling it for $1 million bajillion. Congratulations. But another part of me is like, people actually buy that. Like, someone's out there looking at this and being like, I have to get this. This is like the coolest thing ever. I'm going to wear it once. It's just great. I think it's free entertainment. I mean, for them, it's like $20,000, but
yeah, honestly, people can spend their money on whatever they want. If they have the money to spend on something like that, then go for it. But like, sometimes it is a have. Like, the best example is got to be, you can't really talk about him now, but I will talk about him now, is Kanye. When he did like his first collections, he's got like clothes that look like they were worn by slaves, and they cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and he's selling them back to white people. I think that's like the biggest flex. He's made clothing that looks like the clothing that they used to dress the slaves in, and they're selling it back to dumb white rich people. Like, okay, Kanye, you can have that one. Like, you can't have anything else, but you can have that one.
And he's so controversial at the moment. I tell you, there's just so much going on with him.
Yeah.
Have you watched those documentaries about him? I think he put
documentaries.
Yeah, I think like on
God.
Netflix, like, sorry, maybe like 2 or 3 parts documentary. Yeah.
No, I've just heard that he's been doing a lot of stupid stuff recently. I'm like, okay, it's great. You've probably, you know, lost your mind a little bit. You've probably just gone a little bit off the rocker. Like, he's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. He's probably on some other planet right now, thinking, you know, attention.
It's hard with stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
I think extreme creativity like that sometimes does end up breeding a lot of mental health issues and stuff. Like, so much stuff going on there. And he was probably brilliant. Like, his music has always been brilliant. He's made millions of dollars. He's highly problematic, but
Yeah. I mean, if you get that big, there's always going to be someone who supports you, though. That's the problem. Like, in the real world, if you get start saying stuff that's like completely opposite to what you were saying before and all those kinds of crazy things. You start going off the rocker, people are just going to be like, hey man, you should get some help. But if you're Kanye West, they're like, yeah, this is making us so much money. Keep saying this. Oh, this is so cool. And then some like teenage boy over the other side of the world who's like extremely racist is like, yeah, this is the coolest shit I've ever heard. And
and we do that with a lot of people, right? Look at the Andrew Tate phenomenon.
God, yeah. Like, everyone knows about him though. Exactly.
It's gross and it's very upsetting, but like suddenly he's powerful, you know, like kids look up to him.
Extremely powerful.
Oh, until Greta Thunberg took him down.
Oh, shout out to Greta. Good. It was great. What a good timing as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the youth, coming strong. Yeah, that's good. You grew up in Auckland, Beth.
Yes, I did. 31 years. Well, I was going to say 21, but I can't lie. But yeah, like 31, 32 years. Came down here because my partner Dylan has a painting business down here.
Shout out to Dylan. What's the name of the business? Let's promote the business.
Coat to Coat Painters.
There you go.
Best in town, guys. So he had a painting business. He's had the business for about 8 years. Started it with his brother. And then the brother, Logan, gave us kind of a head start, gave Dylan a kick in the pants because he really needed to do it. And then our friend Scotty came on board, and so Scotty and Dylan are equal business partners. They've been here, I reckon, probably 5 years now, because they were travelling to and from Auckland, so Dylan would come home every weekend from Whiti. And then he was like, screw this, I'm going to move there. And I was like, well, I still need to finish my study because I was still at SOTEC. I'll stay here for another like 12 months till Oscar's just about ready to go to school, and then I'll come down. So I was in Auckland for 18 months, and my mother-in-law had to kick me out of Auckland pretty much because I did not want to leave. And she said to me, I'll give you 6 months. If you like it, if you like it, you stay. If you don't like it, you can come home, but give it 6 months. And I was there for 3 months, and I was like, I'm absolutely never going back to Auckland ever again.
Right.
Like, living here was almost like a massive de-stress. Like, it's crazy how much when you live in Auckland and you breathe Auckland and everything is Auckland, you think that that's the centre of the universe, you know? And when you get outside, I now understand why everybody complains about Aucklanders. You know, I was one of those people. And it's just like a decompression living here. It's a small town, and you have the small town problems, like all the hot goss and, you know, this happened the other day, and did you see this? And I'm like, oh, I live for that. I love the goss. But apart from that, everything else is really fabulous in this town. Like, there's just so many things to do. I would never take Oscar out of school. He will stay at Cora Glen School until he's finished there. And then I'll be probably sending him to boarding school because he's an only child and we can afford that. So I'll definitely do that. But no. So
what do you see when you go back to Auckland? What scares you the most or upsets you the most from the time that you grew up there and the way that it is now?
Well, I mean, Auckland's never really been the place where you can let your kid kind of wander off down the road. But I feel like it has kind of escalated a bit where you absolutely don't even let your kid out the front gate. Especially in areas like where my mother and father-in-law live now. They're in Takanini. And they live in a little place called Conifer Grove, which was, you know, quite nice, quite smart. Like, homes are between $800,000 $1 million to live there now. But they redeveloped the golf course in Takanini, which I guess you could almost call Manurewa, and put a whole lot of housing in there and have opened up it was almost like a closed community in Conifer Grove, almost like a giant cul-de-sac. And they've opened it up now that you can cut through, and it joins up with Manurewa, and this has kind of made the road that my mother lives on now a main thoroughfare. And we were there the other weekend, and we were sitting out the front just having a drink and having a chat, and we hear this horrible noise coming down the road, and it's a car, and it's on its rims. There's no rubber on the wheels. Stops right at the T intersection because we're right at the head of the T. Massive burnout. I mean, the burnout was really good, and I'll give them that. But they were doing that on no rubber, and they had a car in front of them. All the guys are hanging out the car, filming it. Car was probably stolen, and then off they went off down one of the other side streets, which has become even more of a like sort of low income area where there's problems and there's poverty and stuff like that as well.
Wow.
And that kind of stuff didn't happen before. Like, you just didn't see it. It was something that happened, like, in the cover of darkness and, like, secretly. And now it's just out on show, display,
Yeah, there's a clear issue. Like, well, I don't even know if obviously it's a problem, like, we were talking about it before, like, the stretch of the social gap. Like, that's a clear thing to see. So, of course, it's not pleasant when it happens close to our homes, but like it's also a sign, like it's also quite obvious that it's happening, because like coming from where I come from, what you see often is that the middle class starts to ignore the problems that are so close to them, and usually those people who are not living that well, those realities are way closer than actually the wealthy ones. But because you fear, you don't know, it's something new, and then you kind of like, you want those people away. And I understand, because they are causing trouble, but like, I always like to do the exercise of like, man, we gotta fix this problem. Like, if we keep allowing the gap to get bigger, like, it's gonna be here, it's gonna be in the Coromandel, and like I find it so interesting when people say, oh, but here it's fine, we're far, and I'm like, bro, have you seen the size of New Zealand, man? What are you talking about? Like, it's far. Like, like when shit hits the fan, like, it doesn't take much for things like that's why, like, it's quite often that we see on the chit chats and all this thing, oh, RAM raids, oh, someone broke into my business, and someone broke into here, like the studio, like door was open, but they made but like it wouldn't happen, like you wouldn't get people coming up and doing stuff, and then you're like, it's happening, obviously.
But you have to ask yourself why that's happening. Like, what is driving people to do that? And a lot of the time it's social strains, like poverty and things like that. And that a lot of that is institutionalized as well. Like, a lot of that is inbuilt into our systems.
It's pretty much always institutionalized.
Yeah. And like, sometimes I feel very conspiracy theorist when I say this, but sometimes the government makes more money off stuff of like that. Like, you keep these people here.
The economy thrives off of separation.
In
general,
you got to have that.
You got to have the wage gap, or you got to have the gap between different social classes, or otherwise the economy crashes.
Yeah.
But then, do you think we can solve that? What, Petra, with voting better? Maybe.
We've all probably been thinking about it, but I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not very versed in the economy, and I'm not versed in politics either. But I think there's a lot of problems that keep coming back around all the time. And something has to change, and we've been voting for years, and the government's swapped 4 billion different times. So maybe it's something else, but I'm not sure. I'm not educated in this at all.
Do you engage, Beth? Like, do you get to read? Do you have a look at candidates and all that stuff? Like, is it something that gets your attention when it's time to... Yeah?
Because Dylan whinges about it all the time. Like, honestly, and coming from Auckland as well, like, they love whinging about stuff like that. So I think my family have always been pretty red, and then Dylan's family, I think, have been blue, or even old Winnie P. Like, they love Winnie P. But for myself, I'd always been green, and then I was Labour for a while. But I've kind of come to the realisation that maybe we should just stick them all together. Like, I feel like it kind of works better when they're all bouncing ideas off to each other, like a collaborative government. I don't know if that's...
Why do we have to have a side?
Like, I feel like the Labour government is for the people, like the human aspect of it, like mental health and things like that. The national government is for the money, like keeping the economy going and stuff.
The status of the country.
Yeah, and the Greens are like making sure we just don't blow the whole country up. So like, I don't know why they can't all just work together. Like,
but then I think that goes straight to what you said before, Petra. Like, when you divide people, you control them better. It's easier to control a population,
Not
right?
even better to control. It's how the economy works. The economy thrives off. I know this is the only thing I know about the economy, is that you need a wage gap, like a gap between the two classes, in order for something to work, because you have the people doing the work.
Oh yeah.
And you have the people buying the shit.
Yeah.
Like you need that either way. That's how the circle keeps going. It's a really messed up cycle. And the bigger the gap is, that's why America is doing so well, because they have this huge gap between the poor and the rich, and the best economy in the world, and they have the poorest people, some of the poorest people in the world too. And it's very racially based on who's the poor people as well. It's just a whole nother problem.
I can't even with America. I can't. Like, I'd love to go there just to like observe them. Because, like, they speak English, but they're completely different. Like, a different breed, completely.
Different breeds, for sure. But then, like, I see it as a great example of, like, how to fuck up a nation, right? So, like, you got to, as you said, you got to observe, you got to watch, you know, like, and that's why it upsets me when I understand that New Zealand has problems, like, we all have problems, you know, like, but for a lot of countries in the world, like, New Zealand is the coolest, you know, like, if you see how progressive it is, you know, so I think you're right when you say, like, how can we put these strengths together from all these people? But then maybe there's a bit of ego involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's also a business at the end of the day. Like, it's whoever, you know, competition and all that. It's only to see who can make the most money, you know. Oops, sorry. But yeah, it's just like, here you go.
ASMR with Petra Campbell. There you go. Give us some more, Petra.
I think they've had enough.
I think they had enough. Great. Would you go back to a TV show or something like that, Beth? If they invite you, or if you find something interesting, would you? How was your mindset after? How was your mental health after that experience? Let's rephrase it.
Well, I'm like mental health. Yeah, I've been pretty strong with that kind of stuff. Like, body image is always a thing, depression's always a thing, anxiety, all the rest of it. I have ADHD as well, which is another interesting thing to just add on there. But whilst filming Project Runway, they had a mental health expert that was with us the whole time. We were always able to reach out. She did like a screening interview before we went on the show, just to ask us questions like, how are you going to feel if someone in the comments says, look at that fat bitch, or like, you know, just like completely dresses you down. And I was like, just don't read it. Like, people love to read comments, but I absolutely don't read them. And like, it's not my problem you have a problem with my body. Like, your husband probably doesn't, but like, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but like, there's always a mental health advocate, and like, I think she was actually a shrink, like an actual proper,
psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist. That's it. That's what I was looking for, on the show. But yeah. I think, yeah.
Did it take a toll? Like, did you feel like it was hard on you when you left? And then, like, because you were in evidence, you like TV and all that stuff, and then life gets back to normal? Or like, did you have expectations that something big would come out of that?
Yeah, well, when I left, I was like sad because like I just made all these like cool new friends and stuff. And I'd just spent 3.5 weeks completely dedicated to something that I really liked doing. I mean, it was really hard having cameras shoved in your face. And I'd only been doing that type of work for maybe 6 months before I went on the show. So trying to do your craft while you've got a camera here and someone trying to like lead a story here, and then all these other guys in the back who were like way better than you are, doing stuff, that was pretty hard. But yeah, leaving the show was fine. I was kind of glad to get back to normal. And like Oscar was only like 4 or something, you know? And I just had to like leave him with Dylan and be like, good luck. Like, here's a baby. Have fun. So
it's a little bit scary.
Yeah.
Would you go for it, Petra? Would you be on a reality show?
Yeah, but only to take the piss out of it. Like, I'd go on just to, like, have some live television right in front of my face, you know?
Which ones? Which one would you go for?
I don't know. That's my problem. Because I don't have, I can't sew for shit. Like, I try and hand sew my...
Do you need a husband?
True. Oh, I could go on one of those. Yeah, that'd be great.
The name of the show is Do You Need a Husband?
No, but, like, maths. Put her on maths. Like, if do you need a husband?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just go on maths.
Married at first sight. Easy, and then I can just free husband who's probably rich. I mean, like,
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, going on that show, more than likely attractive. They don't hire people who aren't.
No.
The problem's solved, and then I get to watch all the drama go down, and everyone have like. But I'm supposed to be the one having the drama, though. That's the problem. I really got to put on a show.
I think I'd go on reality TV if the TV was about me.
Mm.
It was just like Beth's Basic Life.
Right.
Yeah, Tuesdays 7:30, Channel 2. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'd do that. But you know, with the maths, one of the what's the word again? Shrink, but not a shrink. Psychiatrist. So the one of the psychiatrists that was on there, the love expert or whatever, she actually has a holiday home out in Matarangi, I think.
Okay.
Her husband is a local. She used to come into Luke's kitchen a lot, and I read an article that was published a number of years ago now about why she left the show. And she reckoned that they'd stopped casting for love and they'd started casting for storylines and TV and stuff. And you can definitely tell if you're an addict for maths like I am, then you can tell that they've changed it from like actually finding suitable mates and like teeing people up like that to teeing people up where they absolutely know that the shit is going to hit the fan. Like,
Oh God.
yeah, that's why it's such good watching.
Because it's got to sell, right?
Yeah.
It's a product.
Yeah,
Tragedy sells.
it does.
What about those ones in the wild? Picture in the
Naked and
wild.
Afraid. Oh, so that was like the funniest thing to me when I was younger. That was the best thing. I was like, oh, I'd so gone that if you didn't have to be naked, that would be like so much fun. Because they're all so stupid on it too. They're like, oh, here's a great idea. I just found this puddle of still water. I really want to drink this. I saw one where they actually got sick and had to be taken out the show because they drank some dirty, murky water in the middle of Africa that was like a puddle.
Don't drink the puddle, man. Like, come on.
Don't drink the bottle, man. Don't drink the
Life
bottle.
advice of the day.
No. Yeah.
Did you get to meet some other people who were in the same vibe, like who were part of TV shows and other stuff?
Yeah, I definitely made some very good friends. Judy Gao, she is a couture designer, completely self-taught. I don't think she really knew how to use a sewing machine before she got to Project Runway. A lot of her stuff was hand stitching, and she's got these very long fingers, and she just does all this like pleating, and then she hand sews everything, and her stuff is absolutely brilliant. And then you've got Bo. He is a Tongan designer. He does a lot of stuff for Tongan royal family. He used to work for World, one of our bigger New Zealand brands. He just does absolutely beautiful stuff. He did a collection a few years ago working with a lot of like merino and cashmere and stuff. That was really nice. And there's Matt Costello. He isn't really designing anymore. He is living overseas doing photography, amazing photography. And then of course you've got some of them that have actually gone on to have a successful fashion career, like Caitlin Crisp. She's currently got a store, I think, in Ponsonby and supplies to a few retailers. And she's done a few collections. I think she's on to like 7 or 8 different capsule collections. Benjamin Alexander, who actually won the show, he's pretty good. He's got lots of cute little stuff that with big price tags that you can
Benjamin
get.
Alexander.
Yeah, and then obviously there's Kerry, who came third. He still works for Karen Walker. And I think he does a lot of stuff for drag queens and stuff too, actually. Karen Walker designed a dress for Anita Wiglet for her entrance look in, I think it was Canada versus the World. RuPaul's Drag Race, Canada versus the World. Yeah, so he's doing stuff too. I mean, he was doing heaps of stuff before the show. He'd already been working for Karen Walker for like 10 years or something. So that's why it was very intimidating being on a show with a guy whose full-time job is a pattern maker for one of New Zealand's best designers versus a girl from South Auckland who'd been doing it for 5 minutes, you know.
But that's a cool thing, isn't it? Like, you never know what you're gonna get, because, you know, the one who doesn't have much experience might have the passion, you know, like the thing of being fresh and having the ideas that you don't have when you have your mind already, you know, like all in the brackets, you know, like in the box of what it has to be. So I think that was a good move, actually, to put people like you together.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was thinking here, a lot of the times the culture of a country, it's more successful outside that country than actually what the culture represents in the country, you know, like, so New Zealand has a lot of issues with racism and you know, like accepting Maori culture, but I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, like kapahaka, you know, like the beautiful clothing that are made out there do very well in the world, like following Maori patterns and styles. Is it something that because I think I saw Jacinda a few months ago, like in this beautiful fashion thing that someone designed, like, and I was like, whoa, that's big thing, like that's top. Like,
Yeah, I think so. I think we have a lot of New Zealand designers who do export overseas. There's like Paris, Georgia. Kendall Jenner wears some of their stuff. It's two girls, they work together. We used to do a bit of their stuff when I was working with Stephen Blaise when we were in Mount Eden. And Jacinda pretty much exclusively wore New Zealand designers in her whole term. So she did 6 years, I think, as Prime Minister. And almost exclusively, she wore New Zealand designers, especially people like Kiri Nathan. She's a very big Kiwi designer. A lot of sort of te reo stuff in her designing, a lot of patterning, and yeah.
There you go.
That's very, very fun fact to know.
That's a great fact to know, isn't it? There you go. Before we wrap it up, what about the gossip world? Before I forget.
Oh my God, we cannot forget.
Where are we going? Do you want to start, Petra? Have you got something for us?
Oh,
I don't have any gossip, unfortunately. I only have the unfortunate displeasure of being on Fitty Chit Chat. My sister signed me up so that I could be in the loop with the town. And it's just like...
Not even to check the road conditions? Isn't it good for that?
It's great for checking, but CFM does the best job.
yeah.
CFM does
Shout out to CFM for keeping us updated.
Yeah.
They deserve that for sure.
They do. They absolute best job at that. No, I just hear like this lowlife did this thing outside my house. Like they drove 2 kilometers over the speed limit. I had my speed. That just reminds me when I was driving through Hahei, someone yelled at me from the side of the road to slow down while I was going 50. I think maybe below 50 because there's speed bumps everywhere. I was going like 30 or something. They yelled at me to slow down. And I looked at them dead in the eye. I was like, what are you on about? What are you...
Get off the road.
Such a low life, Petra.
Yeah.
Such a
this
low
life going 32 instead of 15.
No, I love Fitty Chit Chat. Where's my newspaper? My newspaper hasn't arrived. Well, the road's gone. Like, what do you expect, lady?
Do you like to steer as well, Beth? Do you go for a good steer?
No, my friend Marie, she absolutely loves Fitty Chit Chat. She's always sending me the screenshots. Like, we had this woman who worked at Choro Club with us who was not all the tools were in the shed kind of thing. And she posted like... she posted a question and then she replied to her own question, or like someone found a budgie. she said it was her budgie because she recognized the feet, and we were like, okay,
right.
Well, you do you. But there was an interesting one the other day. Actually, it was a woman complaining about someone driving over her plants that she'd planted on Palm Drive there.
Palm Drive.
Yeah, happens to be where I actually live as well, and I may have witnessed what had happened to those plants. Maybe one of your old guests could fill you in on that one.
Did you make a comment as well? Did you just say, I saw that? Or no, you kept it cool?
I screenshotted it and sent it to the person who was maybe responsible. I sent it to the person who lived next door. And their name would have told the person who actually did it, but it was definitely worth the laughs.
Goddamn! So you guys have 154 guesses from our guests.
Yeah, exactly. You have to narrow it down. You do some serious detective work here. This is an important issue.
His name rhymes.
Who drove over those plants?
With Pua.
There you go. We got some tips.
But don't worry, they fixed the plants the next day.
Is it all good?
Yeah, it's all good.
Cool. And if the guest is keen to come here and defend himself or herself, we'll take it. We're all good. We would love that. Beth, we might bring you to do the Altbays gossip show.
Yeah, hot gossip chat line, yeah.
Nice, and you always like choose some cool outfits and all that stuff. Yeah?
Absolutely, and my girls, they're always on the listen for hot gossip. I get you some hot stuff from town. Just
before, you know what I love? When someone posts something and you know that it's going to be taken down, but someone is quicker enough to take a screenshot.
Yeah.
And then that screenshot is way more popular.
Beth is the screenshot.
Marie is the screenshot.
Oh, yeah? Shout out to Marie. Thanks for all those screenshots. Great. Amazing. Beth, what a cool shit. What a cool shit. It's foreigners, man. Foreigners have this one. What a cool chat. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and let's see if we get some of these cool people that you mentioned to bring here and have a chat with us. That would be cool.
Yeah, we have to import them all from Auckland, but I'm sure they'd love a holiday.
Cool. We'll wait for the bridge or for the flight to land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nice. Petra Campbell, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Leo Magri.
Did you like the pizza?
I very thoroughly tried to enjoy it while I was in the middle of talking.
Should we have some more?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thanks, Taylor. So for the beautiful people watching us, from next week, we're going to start live streaming every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. We love the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday format. But we're going to start doing things outside of the studio. We're going to create more content and we're going to get involved with different people. So we're dropping one day of the podcast, but we're definitely creating way more content. We're not burning out. We're not tired. Well, we're a little bit tired, but that's not the reason. We're going to create more cool stuff. So keep in touch. Let us know what you guys think about this show. And send us more gossips and screenshots of your friends doing stupid things. And we'll read them on air next week. Peace. Nice.